happened in the last couple of days. We've just seen Croatia winning on penalties, so Croatia will play Russia and will be Uruguay against France after yesterday's matches. OK, fewer than 48 hours to wait now until England take on Colombia at the Spartak Stadium here in Moscow. Gareth Southgate's been preparing the squad at their base in Rapino. The England manager and captain Harry Kane have been talking to Gabriel Clark.
You were able to rest 8 players. Colombia didn't have that luxury. What can that count for?
Well, it gave us the best opportunity to prepare these players physically and tactically for the game. We took control of whether there were injuries rather than a match situation. So it was about giving us the best opportunity to prepare properly for this game.
There's been some criticism of that. Have you doubted that decision at all, to rest players?
No, I think when you're a leader, and particularly when you're leading the nation's football team, any decision you make that perhaps isn't conventional or that others might disagree with will be questioned. I have to have the courage of my convictions, whether that's on selecting the way we play, how we operate, the personnel that play, the squad, the style of play. I've got to do it the way I believe is right, and I'll always do it with the intention of getting our country as far as we possibly can.
There's been some criticism of Jordan Pickford for certain things in the game against Belgium. Does that surprise you?
Well, we're at a World Cup and there's only one team to focus on, and there's a lot of column inches to fill and probably a lot of goalkeeping experts out there. I think in every position, part of the gig of playing for England is that your performance will be analysed to the finest detail and the finest degree, and every action you take will be highlighted.
And having analysed his performance, your conclusion?
That he's our number one and he plays against Colombia.
What's the one lesson from Euro 2016 you had to put in place?
I think for me it's kind of stay away from the hype of it all. Obviously I was so excited about the Euros, whether that was being on Twitter all the time or being on kind of news apps or kind of just getting obviously excited so you want to see what everyone's talking about, but I feel like it kind of had a negative effect because I was reading too much, I was thinking too much. I feel like I'm at my best when I'm just free in my mind and I'm just playing football. So this tournament I've kind of changed that. I've stayed off social media as much as possible and more kind of stay away from that and just focus on my game and myself. The better I'll be.
You're now at the point where every time you leave the hotel maybe you don't come back. But we're involved in the games we want to be involved in. We're in the games that matter. We're here at a stage of the competition where most of the big guns are still here. So for me that's why I'm in football. I've got a bit big time. I'm not interested in being involved in games that don't matter quite as much as the ones that really do.
We don't need to discuss if we're on the right side of the draw because England quite clearly are, and you can see the game live with us Tuesday from 6:15 here on ITV. Lee will be with us, Gary Neville and Ian Wright. Interesting what he was saying, Harry Kane, about keeping away from social media, Martin, news apps and all that. You probably, that's quite sensible. You don't need any of that at this stage.
Yeah.
Arguably ever, but particularly at this stage.
That's true. And then there is the other possibility that 2 years on he's actually a better player. What else do you want me to say? He's, no, do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely,
he's actually a better player. He's been able to cope. He's actually improved immensely. He's a top-class player, world-class player. And I think, but I take his point. You know, he's had a if you are inclined to be on social media to the extent that some players are, then maybe it can have an adverse effect. But overall, I think in 2 years he's improved immensely.
9-day rest for a lot of the England players, obviously mirroring what's happened with Croatia. We just don't know whether they're going to be fit, refreshed, raring to go, or they've lost a little bit of zip because of the break.
Look, there ain't a formula. If there was a formula, then every manager would do the same. I'm only saying it's based on experience. Martin has different experience, okay, but I don't like, for me, 9 or 10 days, it's a bit too much. It's different when you're home. It's different when you have that routine, you're going out, you do some shopping, you go with the kids to school or whatever. You are in a camp and you are doing nothing. Trainings.
You get bored.
You don't do hard trainings here. Yeah. So 9 days or 10 days in between the games. I forgot how Harry Kane plays. You know, that game against Panama, for me, it was ages ago. Ages.
Well, there's a lot that's happened in the World Cup since,
It's interesting what Harry Kane was saying about the social media stuff and that almost a growing up period. I'll never forget Tony Adams said to us in '98 when we were chasing Man United down, trying to catch up, and he remember saying with a few months to go, he goes, give me 2 months, just give me 2 months, total concentration and commitment. These lads playing in a World Cup have got 4 weeks where they totally dedicate themselves, and that's not on the phone, you know, interacting with fans and stuff. It's really concentrating, doing your job, giving it everything you've got. And I'll never forget him saying that, and I always remember it. And I wasn't lucky enough to go to the World Cup, but if I had done, I would have been the same. And I think that's a real growing up period for Harry Kane. And as you quite rightly said, it might be just because he's a miles better player than he was then, but pure dedication, we're seeing the benefit of.
Because you look at the draw. We just showed a real draw. This is the chance of a lifetime for these England players, Martin. It will never, arguably, ever fall like this again when you see who they might play if they were to win the next match.
I absolutely agree with you. I think that they must be thinking that themselves now. I don't think they've lost any momentum really by that loss. I think that they are fine. I agreed with the changes. I was surprised initially that he made so many changes, only because he suggested himself he wouldn't do, but I'm totally with that there. I'm disagreeing with Slaven in that sense. I'm disagreeing. Now, they can still get beaten by Colombia,
sure.
But I think that will help them, considering the conditions, considering they might have had 1 or 2 niggles, and also an opportunity to see 1 or 2 players that might give him a headache come the next game. He'll probably revert back to the side that opened the tournament, but overall, I'm in agreement with that.
I think it's going to be semi-final against the Croatians. That's what I'm going for.
That would be fantastic, wouldn't it? You're going to sleep well tonight, aren't you?
Don't worry.
Thank you very much indeed, everybody. Martin will be back after a good night's sleep. Slaven will as well, alongside Henrik Larsson, in the studio tomorrow. Live coverage of Mexico against Brazil. The two sides going for a place in the quarter-final. 2:30 tomorrow afternoon with us here on ITV. And later that evening at 10:45, we'll bring you extended highlights from that game, as well as action from Belgium's last 16 match against Japan. And just to remind you, final time, the big one on Tuesday evening, 6:15. Join us live for England against Colombia. Gareth Southgate's side looking to reach the quarter-finals of the World Cup for the first time in 12 years. Well, it's the day penalties came to the World Cup. Against all the odds, the hosts, Russia, still going. They'll play Croatia in the quarter-finals. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.